Where the body goes, the mind follows. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how it affects the subconscious and how it's not only the mind you need to listen to, but the body as well. Okay. So most of us don't listen to our bodies well enough. Okay. So most of us, right, when we're, you know, I want to say when we're catching a cold or we get that first glimpse of, not feeling well or nose twitching like this, most people, what do? They shrug it off and they continue, right? They're not mindful. Okay, so the key word is mindful, mindfulness. Okay, so when something's going wrong, right, we tend to shove it on the side and keep going, doing whatever it is that we do. Okay, but here's the thing, right? When you start being mindful, when you start monitoring yourself a little bit more closely and being more mindful, what happens is you start to identify these little things, okay, that are not right, okay, and you pay more attention to your body and how it feels, and you start respecting that, or you start acknowledging that feeling. And when you start to acknowledge it and respect it, okay, you get sick less, you get injured less, all of these things, okay, because now you're being mindful. So mindfulness is just centering yourself in the moment to whatever's going on with your mind or body. Most people pay attention to the mind more than the body, okay? But I can tell you from experience, like when I'm walking around and I feel a little tension in my ankle and stuff, I'm mindful of it. So I step with less pressure, and pretty soon it goes away, and pretty soon it's done. And that's mindfulness. So your mindfulness actions, or your actions that are mindful, actually help you, because the human being is very, very powerful. Okay, good morning. Good morning, Jake. So, good morning, Costas. So, the human being is very, very powerful. Now, the mind body connection, okay, is basically described in somatic psychology. And what does that mean? That just means that the mind and body are connected. Okay, where the mind goes, the body follows, and where the body goes, the mind follows. So in my practice, I use body first. Where the body goes, the mind follows. So what we do is we work with the human voice, and what that does is it brings confidence in the mind. It settles the mind. Okay, so these are tones that we use and stuff, right? But what I'm really talking about is, let's say someone wants to be confident. You can bring it about through their voice physically by developing the muscles that they sing with, okay, and have them project tones. Okay, so you can do it that way. Or you can actually correct their body language and they'll feel better. Okay, you can correct their body, so try it. So if I'm sitting like this, I'm straight up like this, straight on, right? Now, if you're like this, just lift your head a little bit like this and hold it. Okay. You feel that? Okay. So these are little things that you can do. But when you adjust your body language, what happens is you feel better. Okay. So either way, mind or body, where the body goes, the mind follows. Where the mind goes, the body follows. Okay. But these are real things. We don't normally pay attention to these things. Why? Because we're so busy, right? The clock keeps us busy. The calendar keeps us busy. We have errands to run. We have families to take care of and all this stuff. But when you really, start to pay attention to what somatic psychology is really telling us, what you find is like, oh, the mind and the body are connected. So I can help the mind through the body or help the body through the mind. Either way. Okay. So now, environment is another thing that affects the body and the mind. Okay, so be mindful of your environment. Okay, I was telling this story yesterday about one of my clients, and she was very, very smart. She wasn't making very much money, and she was very, very smart. She had all the potential, and I told her, I said, you need to change your environment. And as soon as she changed her environment, her career skyrocketed. She made, really good money, and everything got better in her life. Okay, so environment is another thing. Okay, now I also wanted to talk about karma and how karma is affected, especially generational karma. Okay, because I deal a lot with families. I deal a lot with people who have children that can't concentrate. I deal a lot with people who have children that are not motivated. Okay, they just want to play video games, or they just scroll, right? Mindless scrolling, right? And they just want to get that dopamine hit, right? So karma, right? Karma can be generational if you don't break it. So how does that work? Well, it works through the subconscious. It's not some kind of mystical thing. Okay, so patterns are handed down. Patterns are learned. Okay, have you ever seen these kids that are raised by their grandparents? And pretty soon they start speaking like the grandparents, right? Because they're around their grandparents so much because their parents are at work, right? And then the way that they speak, okay, either their accent or their phrasing or the patterns of speech that they use, right? They start mimicking their grandparents. Okay, so and you know this too because probably, right, like your family members that you were raised around between the time you were born and 7 years old, right? You ever say something like you're in your 40s or 30s and you say something and you go, oh, geez, I sound like my dad, or wow, I sound like my uncle, or something. You say something, right? So these things are memorized by the subconscious. 95% of your actions are subconscious. Okay, and we don't think about these things. Why? Because we're busy working, we're busy doing, we're busy producing, we're busy raising families and stuff, right? So here's what's important to know, that these things are also hereditary, but mostly subconscious, because the patterns and behaviors get passed down through the generations, okay, from person to person, okay? Now, it's also hereditary, right? Because like in my case, right, I have a son, and when I met him, he was raised by his mom, and when I met him at 16 and I got to know him, I'm like, wow, he has all my bad habits. How could that be? I didn't raise him, right? He wasn't around me, but he has all my bad habits. So, that kind of thing, right? And then you kind of notice these things, okay? Because all cells have memory. All cells have memory, okay? And these cells, so you are a combination of your mom and dad, and that comes down the gene pool, okay? And then you pull from each side of the family tree, and that comes down the gene pool. But karma, okay, you can control karma. You can fix karma. Okay, if you've ever heard of karmic debt, okay, so energetically, ancestral karma comes down through the subconscious. These are unresolved patterns and emotional or mental or energetic things that happen from generation to generation. Because when you're small, when you're a little kid, you observe these behaviors, and then you take on these behaviors. You memorize these behaviors. And then what happens? Well, the behaviors turn into actions and results, and now you're getting the same results that maybe the generation above you had. Okay, and then it gets passed down because it gets memorized. Now, these things are human beings are very sensitive. Okay, humans are very, very sensitive. It doesn't take much for a human being to catch on to habits, okay, or to create habits. It takes 63 days to create a habit. 63 days. Good or bad? Good or bad? Okay, now, people are under the impression that, it's, bad habits are easy and good habits are hard. No, they're not at all. It's the same thing. Okay, so I always talk about cookies when I do the cookie habit. Okay, so you go to a party, right? And you see cookies, wow, can I have a cookie? Yeah, sure, help yourself. You have a cookie. Then pretty soon it's like, wow, you start thinking about that cookie, right? I think I have another cookie. You have another cookie. Pretty soon, right, the question comes up, where do you get these cookies? These are good cookies. Oh, Costco. And then in a couple of days, you're standing in line with a bag of cookies. And now you have a cookie habit. Okay? Now you can undo these things just as easily. And the only thing that needs to happen is willpower, right? So you have to have the will to stop eating cookies, or you have to have the will to, stop doing this. How do you strengthen will? affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. Okay, the 4 pillars. These 4 pillars applied to any one thing will manifest whatever it is that you're trying to bring about. Okay, or we can say it another way. You will accomplish your goals. So goal setting, manifestation, a lot of people think manifestation now, right? Because it's been floated around in a mystical way. Like it's magic. It's not magic, it's your subconscious. Okay. So just about everything happens from your subconscious. But your conscious mind is the gatekeeper. Your conscious mind is the gatekeeper. Your conscious mind will allow a thought in or not. Okay, so you have control over the conscious mind. You can say stop, and the thought will stop. If you don't say stop, what happens? Well, then the thought comes, right? Then the emotion follows the thought. Okay, so when you have a thought or an intention, and you marry it with emotion, what do you have? You have manifestation. In other words, in plain language, when you think something and you put an emotion behind it, you intensify the thinking. When that happens, it makes an impression on your subconscious. And when that happens, your subconscious learns it better than your conscious mind. Because when you commit it to your subconscious, now your subconscious is not prejudiced at all. It does not judge. It does not know fantasy from reality. So when you input these thoughts into your subconscious, a thought you're thinking about over and over and over, okay, a thought you get excited about, okay, that goes into your subconscious. Now your subconscious will go, oh, that's what we're doing? Okay. And that's basically a simplified version of what the subconscious does. And then the subconscious will use it and repeat it. It'll first draw some confirmation. So if your thought is, I'm lazy, and you think it again, I'm lazy, and you start speaking it, I'm lazy today. I'm not going to do anything. I'm lazy. Okay? What happens is your subconscious gets the message that, oh, okay, we're lazy. And then it will look for instances where you were lazy, and it will confirm it to you. Yeah, you remember last week when you didn't do anything all day? You remember that? And it'll get these confirmations, right? And so now that belief is solidified. That belief is in your subconscious. And now your subconscious will start producing lazy actions. So there's the conscious, the subconscious, and superconscious. Now the superconscious will start giving you opportunities based upon what you believe. So the superconscious, we put God in the superconscious category. Okay, now if you don't believe in God, then there's just the conscious and subconscious. And some thought leaders, some doctors classify the subconscious as God. But there is the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious in the spiritual world, because the superconscious represents consciousness or spirit. Okay. And my position is you're not your body, you're not your mind, you're that energy that lives in here. Okay, whatever you call what's in here. If you want to call it a spirit, you want to call it soul, whatever. But that's who you are. Okay, your body is just something that you make move, you make it walk, you make it lift things, you have it feed you, that kind of thing. Okay. When you start looking at life at an energetic level, because everything is energy, things start to change. Okay. And you can change energy. You can manipulate energy. What? Manipulate energy? Yeah, sure, you can. Okay? When you impress upon the superconscious a positive emotion, it will return it to you in kind. That means if you're happy, that means if you're joyful, that means if you're in a good mood and you make an impression on the superconscious, it will send you good things because that will be your emotional vibration. Okay, so we have positive over here, we have the 50 percentile, we have negative over here. So the positive at the very top is love. Love, peace, gratitude, joy, passion, excitement, enthusiasm, hope, and satisfaction. So if you're satisfied, that's the very beginnings of positive emotion. So when we talk about frequency, we're not talking about resonance. We're not talking about scientific resonance. We're talking about emotional frequency. Everything has a frequency. But when you have a positive emotion, we call it a positive frequency. Now, you can raise your frequency, or we can say it another way, you can raise your emotions. And as you raise your emotions, things get better. Okay, as you lower your emotions, things get worse. Why? Well, the first step is worry for the negative emotions. Worry. So you go worry, irritation, disappointment, criticism, anger, hate, boredom, envy, despair, grief, guilt, shame, and fear at the very bottom. If you're experiencing any one of these, just know that they all belong to fear, and the higher vibrations all belong to love. Love and fear are the polar opposites. Okay? So love cannot exist where fear is. And this is why the only thing that keeps you from manifestations, okay, or let's say another way, the only thing that keeps you from achieving your goals is doubt and fear. Because when you're doubting, what you're doing is you're canceling it. You're canceling it out. So let's say, for example, you get an idea like, I want that position, I want that job, that position. So you go, okay, I want that job at XYZ company. And then your second thought is, but I probably won't get it. There you go, doubt. Now you have canceled yourself out of that job. Okay, so that's what doubt does. Fear is the same thing, but all the negative emotions are rooted in fear. So if you're experiencing any negative emotion, if you're bored, if you're irritated, if you're disappointed, okay, they all have a little bit of fear attached to it. Now, why is this so important to be emotionally intelligent? Well, emotional intelligence is a new term, relatively new. And all it really means is to have a handle on your emotions or be able to transmute this energy. In other words, transmute is just to change form. So you can take negative energy, we were talking a little bit about that yesterday, and change it into positive energy. So in other words, when you're in a bad mood, you can actually change it into a good mood. Okay, it'll take a little time because, you have to experience that, right? You're in a bad mood. It's like you can't just switch like that, right? But put on a song, something you enjoy, look at pictures that you enjoy, distract yourself into happiness or pleasantness first or satisfaction first, then move up the line like that. Okay. But when we talk about karma and the subconscious, what we're talking about is our environment. What we're talking about is the things or people that we're subjected to, that we acquire habits from. Why is it karma? And how come karma is known like this? Well, because karma is formed, because karma is learned. So in other words, if one of your, let's say the generation above you in your family, okay, if they had a practice of doing a certain thing, when you're born, when you're old enough to recognize everything, which is very early, okay, 3-year-olds are sponges, okay, they absorb in everything. You're not even a part of consciousness until you're 7, not until you're 7 years old. So you're just absorbing data. That's all you're doing. You're taking in data. Okay, you're learning. You're just learning, experiencing everything. Now, what you do between the time you're born and 7 years old sets your first paradigm. So your paradigm is the way you see the world, your attitude towards the world, the way you see things, your perception, all of that. Okay. So now let's say, for example, that you observe somebody in your family doing certain things, and then you acquire the habit. Okay, so actions turn into results. So if you learn how to do something that, let's say, is not ideal, let's say it's not necessarily negative, but it's not really ideal. Okay, if you look at the tree, the subconscious tree, right, you have the roots of the tree, which are your core beliefs, your subconscious beliefs. The body of the tree or the trunk of the tree is your paradigm. Okay, this is the way you see the world. This is your attitude towards the world, okay, which dictates the fruits of the tree. Okay, ye shall know them by their fruits. Okay, that's an expression. Okay, but really what it means is you'll know them by their actions, the way they act. That then you're gonna know who they are. Okay, but now let's say that you acquired these beliefs from an older family member or a generation above you in your family. Okay, now you have the belief that's going to shape your paradigm, which will dictate your actions, the fruits. The actions turn into results. So now what happens? Now you're getting the same results as the person in the generation above you in your family. Okay, so karma, okay, has been passed down. Generational karma. In other words, let's say a generation above you, they spank their children, okay? And then you observe that when you're little, okay? Maybe you get spanked, and then now you have children, and you see, it just kind of goes like that. You see, like that. But that could be anything. That could be anything. That could be eating too much candy, because it's anything that you observe. It's anything that you observe, anything that you hear, all of your senses. So your subconscious is a culmination of all of your senses. And that's the data that you take in as a human being. Everything you hear, everything you touch, everything sensory, everything you smell. You know, you ever walk into a restaurant and all of a sudden the smell takes you back to your grandmother's kitchen? That kind of thing. You're in the store, you hear the music, right? And you go, wow, that takes me back to like third grade. I remember that song from third grade. Okay, so we don't normally consider ourselves with a good memory. We don't normally think of ourselves like, yeah, I have a good memory. Okay, some people do, of course. But I'm just saying that you don't realize how good of a memory you have until you get triggered, until something triggers the memory. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that. Okay, but you're not consciously aware of it because it's in your subconscious. So another way to understand it is like if you want to think about it like a computer, okay? So your conscious mind is your operating system. The subconscious is your storage, where you store the programs, where you write the programs. Okay? And the superconscious is the network that we're all plugged into. How are we plugged into the network? Well, it's the energy in here. And we're plugged into the network. We all belong to the same network because we all have the same energy in here. The kingdom is in here. Jesus Christ told us that. Gautama Buddha told us that. Krishna told us that. And why is that important? It's important because you have the power to manifest things. You have the power to change things. You have the power to bring things to you. Now, we all live in a system. But within this system, it's very easy to prosper. It's very easy to be poor. Okay, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, feeling poor is the reason why, poverty consists of feeling poor, is what he said. But what he was saying is, if you're poor, it's because you're feeling poor. And those feelings manifest out into more poverty. Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, either way you're correct, right? So it's how you think, and it's how you see yourself. And how you see yourself will determine the kind of life that you live. So if you see yourself as worthy, if you see yourself as, yeah, I deserve that. I deserve a better life. I deserve a better car. I deserve whatever. Okay, that's the beginning. That's the very beginning. Because you have to believe in this one. You have to do things that support this one. In order to love somebody else, you gotta love this first. Okay, you gotta love what you see in the mirror. Okay, then you have enough love for somebody else. You gotta fill this up with love. How do you do that? How do you change that? If you don't love yourself, how do you change it? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. All day long. Start writing love. Start speaking love. Start becoming love. That's what you need to do. Because love is an energy. Okay, I'm not talking about the Valentine's Day love. I'm not talking about commercial stuff. I'm talking about energy. Everything is energy. And you can become love if you start speaking love. So how do you speak love? Well, instead of saying I like this or I like that, say I love this, I love that. I love that dog. Yeah, I love those kids. You know, I love that house. I love that car. You know, I love this pen. Okay, stuff like that. So you start speaking love. Now, if you say the word like and then you say the word love, they sound very different. Okay, the vibration is different. Okay, here, I'll show you. I like this pen. Now watch. I love this pen. You see how the word sounds different? You see the vibe that you get from the word? Yeah? Okay, so when you love something versus when you like something, you're projecting a different vibration. It's a bigger vibration. It's a more encompassing vibration. So if you say, I like that car versus I love that car, there you go, see? Love sounds better. And that's how you become love or become loving, okay, is you speak love more. Speak love more than you don't speak love. And then think love. So one of the techniques I had when I first started doing this, good morning, Steph. Good morning. So when I first started doing this back in 2007, I had this gratitude practice, okay? And I included love in my gratitude practice because love is so important. Love is the highest vibration. When you become love, you become a higher vibration. You belong to a higher vibration emotionally, okay? So what I did was I used to drive around, I used to turn off my stereo. You know, when I was in my 20s, I would kill for the stereo I have now, and now I don't even use it. I use it for audiobooks now instead of music. But I'm driving around, right? And I used to turn off the volume on the radio or audiobook or whatever. And now it's really quiet in my car, right? And I'm driving around and I would just look at things and say, I love it. I would look at the trees and go, I love the trees. I love those trees. I love those dogs. I love that park. I love those mountains. And I just used to keep driving. Now, the other thing I did was say thank you. Okay, now I'm here to tell you that you don't need to apply your thank you to an entity or a deity or a person. Okay, you can if you want to, of course. Okay, but I'm just saying you don't have to. You can just say thank you, and it works. Okay, because you can, so I turn off the volume on my car, and I'm driving, and I see something, and I go, well, thank you for the trees. Thank you for the park. Thank you for the dogs. Thank you for that person. So you can express gratitude by just saying thank you. You don't have to assign it. You don't have to say thank you, Jesus, or thank you, God, or thank you, Lord, or thank you, Buddha, or whatever you say. You don't have to assign it. You could just say thank you, and it works. And when you start saying thank you, when you start expressing gratitude, you're going to find that you start getting more stuff. Okay, and that's why we were talking about, the other day, we were talking about giving. Okay, many people are good at giving. Okay, they're really, really good at giving. They're not good at receiving. A lot of people dismiss the giver. Let me give you an example, okay? So somebody gives you a $10 bill, And you go, hey, wait, no, what's that for? Now you made the giver feel bad. Okay, now the giver feels, like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't have done this, right? Or you give somebody something, and they say, oh, you shouldn't have. Now you're dismissing the giver. You want to encourage the giver. Okay, you want to be a good receiver. Because if you don't practice being a good receiver, you're going to put a blockage between you and the goodness that belongs to you. Goodness already belongs to you. The good things that are going to come into your life are already yours. You just have to welcome it in. You don't get things by accident. Okay, good things in life don't happen by accident. They happen on purpose and with purpose. And you have to make part of that purpose gratitude and love. Because when you do that, okay, and I'm talking about generosity. Generosity is rooted in love. Kindness is rooted in love. Gratitude is rooted in love. All of these things are rooted in love. Peace is rooted in love. Joy, passion, they're all rooted in love. But when you begin to express these things, what happens? You start to express love. And then what happens? Then everything that is of love starts to come to you. Because like attracts like. Like vibrations attract like vibrations. And you know this because this is why they say, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll tell you who you are. Why? Because like-minded people attract each other. If your friends aren't doing what you do, chances are, right? You're going to be gravitated more to people that like what you like. If you like baseball, if you like football, you're going to be attracted to those people. Now you can share in the football games and you can talk about football. You have something in common, right? So those commonalities are very, very easy to look for. And that's why they say that. Okay, because commonalities, humans gel together. We gel together. Commonalities. Okay, things in common. There are some people that get together that are polar opposites. Yeah, there are. But mostly it's the things in common that unite us as humans. Okay. We're bonding creatures. We're social creatures. Okay, so we bond through commonality. So like attracts like. And that's why when you have friend groups, the friend groups normally like the same stuff or similar things, right? Not all the same things, but yeah, a lot of the things are similar. So human beings are chameleons to their environment. So this is why if something's going wrong for you all the time, if something's not really clicking for you, it could be your environment. Okay, when I was talking about that girl earlier in the live, I told her you need to change your environment because you're really smart. But she was going in circles. Why? Because there was no opportunity where she was. And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you're in the wrong town. With her, she was in the wrong house. She was in her grandmother's house. So limiting beliefs can be projected onto you by well-intentioned family members and friends. Okay, limiting beliefs. You can come up with an idea, and if you're in your family's house and somebody in the family says, that won't work, right? So you get these things projected onto you. Now, if you didn't have that projected onto you, maybe you would have moved forward with your idea. Okay, so again, consider your environment. So environment plays a big role in development. And I'm talking about your life development, how your life evolves, how your life develops. So environment is very important. If you're in the wrong town, you need to go to the right town. If you're doing the wrong thing, you'll know because it's not going to make money. It's just not going to click. So you either make adjustments, right? And then it evolves into something that works, or you change it. The worst thing you can do is keep doing something that doesn't work over and over and over and over and over again. That's called insanity, because you're expecting a better result. Okay, now this happens in people's subconscious. Once they have this habit in their subconscious, and it could be anything that's holding them back. But when your subconscious learns it, your subconscious will keep feeding it to you in repetition, because the subconscious learns in repetition. Okay, so it'll keep feeding you the same thing. And that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So just know that if you're getting the same results and you're feeling stuck, it's your subconscious. It's not your environment. I mean, it could be your environment as well, but it's not things out here. It's in here. The prison is in here. Okay, the prison is in here. And when that starts working in negative repetition, or that starts overthinking with negative thoughts, it's going to attract more negative things. It's just because it's a habit, that's all. Okay, so it's like nothing's wrong with you. You just need to change your thinking. It's easy, but it's a practice. And you have to do it in repetition, because if you just do it one time, it's not going to do anything. So this is why affirmations are important. I'll show you my tablet that I'm done with, this one. So this is what you have to do to keep your subconscious performing at its optimum. Okay? Because your subconscious is like a muscle. You have to exercise it. You have to exercise it and keep it in shape. Okay, I've been doing that since 2007. So I have a whole stack of those that are completed, in my storage. And I thought, wow, one day I want to go and look. I want to go look back and see, all the things I wrote down that came out, right? Because I did it in the very beginning. In 2007, I started, and I made myself a promise. And the promise was, if this thing works, if affirmations work for me, then I'm going to do it like for the rest of my life. And that's what I've been doing. Okay. But I also said, if it doesn't work, I'm never ever doing it again. So I gave myself 66 days. It takes 66 days to make change. 66 days of repetition. So in the beginning, I have my clients focus on one affirmation for at least 30 days. But back in the day, I was just writing random to just see if it happened. Because when I first started it, right, I thought, well, maybe I can just, write for anything and it'll show up. So I did it for 2 months, and when I went back, I was amazed at what I found. And what I found was almost everything, not everything, but almost everything, more than not. More things happened than didn't happen. And I was like, wow, I was amazed. So I kept going. And it's 2025 right now. That was 2007. I still write affirmations all the time. Why? Because I want to bring things into my world. So there's energy involved, there's frequency involved, there's vibration involved. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe better, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And with the vocalization process that we do with people, which calms them, which diminishes PTSD, which takes away anxiety and stuff like that, overthinking, that kind of thing, with the velocity, the air pressure that we use for the vocalization, it's amazing. And what it does is it secretes hormones, oxytocin and endorphins. And people just start calming, and they become emotionally intelligent automatically. Automatically. So it's not so much about taking away what's going, like taking away, or let me put it another way. It's not about adding to yourself. It's not about adding a bunch of stuff to yourself to make things go right. It's about taking away what's going wrong. It's about eliminating the junk. It's about eliminating the overthinking. It's about eliminating the anxiety. Because when you do that, everything falls into place naturally, holistically. It's a holistic process. Okay, so instead of focusing on oh, I gotta get a book on this. I gotta learn how to do this. I gotta learn how to do that. No, if you just take away the stuff that's preventing you from moving forward, if you just take away the junk, the rubbish, in Hawaii we say opala. If you just take away the rubbish, things start to work out. Why? Because you have a life path in here. And your life path unfolds for you like this. Life doesn't happen to you like this. It happens like this. Okay? And when doubt and fear happen, it just slows the process down. Okay? Sometimes if you're fearful enough, it will stop. But most of the time, it just slows down. Okay, so when things are not going smooth, there's doubt and fear involved. Okay, when you're doubting, when you're fearing what's ideal for you, okay, your emotions affect your behavior patterns. Okay, because if you're scared or if you're doubting yourself, you're not going to do as good of a job with anything. Okay, so it's like that. So our emotional frequencies are important. Okay, and then like I said before, it's not really frequencies like resonance where you hit one tuning fork and it triggers the other one. Okay, but like does attract like. Happy people will get together. Okay, miserable people will get together. And what do? They talk, they grumble about everything, right? They complain about everything, but they're having fun doing it. Why? Because their subconscious has learned to grumble, to complain, right? So they get together and they talk and they're like that, right? And the happy people congregate together and they're happy like that. Okay, so this is why fellowship is important. Okay, fellowship in any form. I'm not just talking about church. I'm talking about anything. Clubs, organizations, nonprofits, people that clean the beaches, stuff like that. People that get together and congregate for a good purpose, for a good reason. Those are the people that are the happiest. Because if you sit around and complain about your problems and you're just experiencing more doubt and fear. If you're complaining, you're fearing. There's something that you're afraid of. Okay? So again, love is the highest vibration. Anytime you put love into something, somebody does something wrong to you, instead of yelling at them, show them love. Watch what happens. That angry energy, that kind of negative energy, it just dissipates. Because energy is transmutable. If you're stuck with something, apply love. If you can't figure something out, apply love. That's when you have to seek inside when things are going wrong. You have to stop, right? Provide that timeout, that vibrational timeout, and go in the kingdom. Okay, this is the kingdom in here. Close your distractors, okay? And then you ask, believe, receive. You ask, okay? So if something's going wrong, ask for the solution. Go in here and ask. And then believe in your asking. Believe that you will get the answer. And the answer will come. So ask, believe, receive. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Where is it open unto you? It's open unto you in here. When you seek and ye shall find, where do you do that? You do that in here, in the kingdom. It's very important because why don't we do that more often? Well, because we're distracted out here in the physical world. There's a separation between the body and the spirit. The spirit rules over the body all day long. But the body is subjected to the physical world because the body lives in the physical world. The spirit lives in the body. And you have a choice. You can be a good spirit or you can be an evil spirit. either one. You can go either way, right? But just know that there's a limit to evil. Okay, there's a limit. There's a limit to the bad things that can happen to you. How far you can go negative, okay? So you could land on the street, and then after the street there's prison, and then after prison there's graveyard. That's it. That's it. What about the other side? The other side is unlimited. When you start going up the ladder, there's no amount of money, no limit to the money you can make. There's no limit to the friends you can have. There's no limit to the people you can love. There's no limit. There's no limit to the amount of houses you can buy. You see? So on the positive end of things, there's no end to love. Love is infinite. That's why they say love conquers all, because love cancels out all the negative emotions. So if this is the 50 percentile, and this is positive, and this is negative, this side ends at the graveyard. This side keeps going. Love keeps going. Love is infinite. And this is what Jesus Christ was talking about. This is what Jesus was talking about when he said, right, love God more than you love yourself. Okay, so God lives in here, okay? So you have to love what's in here, okay, more than you love yourself. And then love thy neighbor as thyself. Recognize that the other person has a spirit too. They are a spirit too. When you start looking at things like energy, the whole world changes. But if you're distracted into the physical, okay, into the physical world, into the calendar, into the clock, into those things, then you'll be pulled into the commercial world. You'll be pulled into the calendar. You'll be pulled into the clock. You'll be subject to those things. But if you see everything as energy, okay, and if your primary focus is love energy, there's nothing you cannot do. There's nothing you cannot accomplish. You just have to make up your mind. That's it. In other words, what I'm saying is select what you want from life. I want that. When you put that belief into your subconscious starts saying, okay, you want that? Okay, let's see. How many ways can we get that? How can we obtain that? It will start to figure it out for you. It will present you with ideas. The superconscious will give you intuitive thought about those ideas. And it will start opening the doors as you take the steps towards it. So if it's a new car, right? If you're taking the steps towards a new car, that might involve getting another job. That might involve saving money. That might involve going down to the dealer to take a test drive. That might involve, getting a loan or something, right? It's like so many ways. There's not one way. And it's not black and white, two ways. There are infinite possibilities on how you can get a new car. I always talk about one of my clients that got a brand new, almost brand new van. 10,000 miles on the van. Her van was breaking down. She couldn't afford to fix her van. She had 3 young children. And I felt sorry for her. So I said, here, I'm going to tell you what to do. Write down this affirmation. And I gave it to her, and it was, I am so happy and grateful now that I have my brand new van. Where's my pen? I am so happy and grateful now that I have my brand new van. Thank you. That was her affirmation. And I told her, just keep writing it every morning. Speak it out loud every night. Because it has to go in your subconscious. So she did that. And in about 2 months, she came in my office one day and she goes, you'll never guess what happened. Whenever anybody says that, I pay attention because I'm like, okay, I want to hear this story. And that's the kind of stuff that's in my book. That's what's in my book, those kinds of stories. The positive things that happen to people because of the way that we train them with their voices. But anyway, so she comes in, she goes, you never guess what happened. I'm like, what? What happened? She goes, oh, my best friend, like her husband is in the military and they have to leave. He got stationed somewhere else. And so she said, I can have her van. She doesn't have time to sell it. All you got to do is put the title in your name. I'm like, wow, there you go. Because if you think that money's the only way you can get something, you're suffering from limited thinking. She got the van for free. It was almost new, 10,000 miles. You think she was complaining? The van was spotless. It was like new. They took care of their van. So it was like new. So it was like she got a new van. It was amazing. Okay, so she found out the power of affirmations. Now, it has to be realistic. And yeah, you have to put your heart into it. In other words, you have to feel what you're doing. You can't just, write down anything. You have to feel what you're doing. You have to marry intention with emotion. You have to marry that together. So you have to feel it when you're writing it. And positive emotions would help, because if you're feeling fear or if you're angry and you're trying to manifest something or, let's say accomplishing a goal, it's not going to work very well. But that was amazing. She got a free van. And that's all she did. I have tons of stories like that. Tons of clients like that. So again, first you have to be decisive and know what you want. Sometimes people can't answer that question. When I first do my intake on clients, I ask them, okay, what do you want? What's the goal? And sometimes they can't tell me, well, I want this, I want that, I want it. Okay, no, back up. What's the priority? What's number one? Number one first. What's number two? What's number three? Okay, now that you have 5, make a list. Eliminate the ones you don't really need. In other words, prioritize. Take the first one. The first one. Okay, so now let's aim affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization all at the same thing. Because when you do that, it cannot not happen. It has to happen. So the affirmations is the writing, and you have to write it with a pen. Okay, because if you don't write it, if you put it in your phone like this, it's not going to work. It doesn't go in your subconscious. You have to write it. Meditation, you have to be still for at least 5 to 10 minutes a day. I did 6 30-minute meditations this morning. I get up at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's 7:55 in Hawaii right now. But those meditations allow me to go through my entire day in flow state. I do the work of about 3 to 4 individuals that way, because things flow. That's why they call it flow state. Look it up. It's a thing. It'll benefit you if you have a high pressure job or a high volume job. You have to do a lot of things in a day kind of thing. But meditation is just putting a vibrational break between you and everything else. Yesterday we were talking about a negative roll, when one thing, a negative spiral, when one thing happens after the other, boom, 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 like that. When that happens, you need to take a time out. 5 minutes. Stop. And then when you rejoin, things will be good now. Why? Because that negative spiral energy is gone. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. Okay, so Affirmations, meditation, vocalization. What's the vocalization? You need to speak it. Your subconscious responds to your voice over everyone else's. And right now, my subconscious does not know if I'm talking to me or if I'm talking to you. And this is that karma thing again. Because when you speak against someone else, your subconscious doesn't know if you're speaking to someone else or if you're speaking it onto yourself. So be careful. Your subconscious cannot distinguish fantasy from reality, and it cannot judge. And then you wonder why you're suffering low self-esteem. Why do I feel bad today? Maybe it's because I cursed that guy out yesterday and now I feel bad today. I'm just saying, you know. But it acts out in other ways. So now, affirmations, meditation, vocalization. So speak the dream. Speak your goals. You don't have to speak them in front of others. You don't want haters. Just speak them to yourself out loud. Do I am statements. You know, I am kind. I am generous. I am loyal. I am a good husband. I am a good father. I am a good wife. I'm a good daughter. That kind of thing. Write 100 of them. It's good for you. In the Bible, right, God reveals himself to Moses as I am. So I am refers to what you are in here. So whatever you write down, I am, if you write it often enough, you will become it. So if you want to be more generous, write down, I am generous. Keep writing it down. Pretty soon you will start giving. Okay, it works on your subconscious like that. Okay, so affirmations, meditation, vocalization. What's visualization? A couple of things. First of all, you have to see yourself worthy. And you have to see yourself in the end goal. So what's the end goal? Well, where you want to live. What kind of job you want to have. What kind of car you want to drive. What kind of woman you want to be married to. What kind of guy you want to be married to. Or if you don't want to be married to, what kind of significant other do you want to have? All of these things. But you have to do it here first. Because when you see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Bob Proctor said that. Okay? When you see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. If you can't see it here, you won't be able to bring it into the physical world. Everything begins with thought. Okay, so thoughts become things. First the thought comes, then the emotion follows the thought. Okay. Then the thought married with emotion, right? Or the intention married with emotion starts the physical action process. That ends in the materialization of the thing you thought. First you think it, then you do it. If you think it often enough, right? Pretty soon you just do it. You're thinking about that lunch you want to have at that favorite lunch place you want to have. You keep thinking about it. Pretty soon, guess what? One day you're sitting down at lunch over there and you go, yeah, I've been thinking about this place for a long time and I'm finally here. There you go. See? So, positive thinking is not difficult. Positive actions are not difficult. Positive habits are not difficult. It's just repetition. Okay, and Jay is saying, see you next week. So it's time to go. So we're gonna cut off from our international stream. So we do this every morning. I'm not here to sell you anything, so I don't have a sales pitch or anything. I hope you're not disappointed, but the website is hereforyoulifecoaching.com. And it's 8 a.m. in Hawaii. We'll see you tomorrow morning.